Thomas and today we will be making s'more cupcakes. I first made these a couple weeks ago and they were super duper yummy because it's like a graham cracker cinnamony cupcake filled with chocolate ganache and then topped with marshmallow that you use a blowtorch on, and it gets all toasted marshmallowy. So today we are going to make them starting with the cupcake base themselves. First you're going to preheat your oven to 350. So the first thing you're going to want to do is take 7 graham crackers, and then you are going to put those in a blender and blend it up until you have a nice graham cracker powder. Now you're going to add in 1 cup of flour, half a teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon, and 1/4 teaspoon plus 1/8 of a teaspoon of both baking powder and baking soda. And you're just going to stir that together until it's all combined. Now you're going to take a mixer, and in the bowl you're going to add 1 stick of butter, which should be softened, half a cup of brown sugar, and 1/3 of a cup of granulated sugar. Then you're going to beat this with a paddle attachment on medium speed for a couple minutes until it is light and fluffy. Once that's done, you're going to add in 2 eggs at room temperature, 1 at a time. You might need to scrape down the sides every once in a while. Now you're going to add in 1/3 of your dry ingredients and mix that in. And now you need 1 cup of buttermilk. So you're going to only add in half of this right now and mix that in. Now you're going to add in half of your remaining dry ingredients, the rest of the buttermilk, and the rest of your dry ingredients. Now it's time to prepare your muffin pans. So most people are probably going to use these little paper muffin liners, but I usually use these silicone ones, but for the purpose of this video I'm going to use the paper ones just because they're a little easier to peel off. The original recipe called for 12 muffin things. However, when I made this, I found that they overflowed a bit when I took them out of the oven, so it might be a good idea to make like 14 if you notice that yours is running low. So you just want to do 1 more scrape down of everything in your bowl and then mix it all together again. Now you're going to somehow get the batter from here into here. So I have this giant cookie scoop which works pretty well for doing this, but you can also just use a big spoon or whatever you want to do that works. So you want to fill these about 3/4 of the way full. And it's okay if it's a little bit less or a little bit more than that. Okay, so I was able to fit it in just these 12, so now you are going to put this in the oven for about 20 minutes, and I will be back when it comes out. When your cupcakes are done, you should take them out and let them cool completely before moving on. I will be back when they're fully cool, so I will see you then. Okay, once your cupcake bases are fully cooled, it is time to scoop out the inside, because that is where the chocolate is going to go. So I have a melon baller here, but you can also use a cookie scoop or a spoon to do this part. So you're just going to take out the middle and the little ball, and you should eat these because they're really yummy. And now you're just going to repeat that for all the rest of them. Okay, so once you're all done scooping out the insides of the cupcakes, and they should look like this, you can now move on to the next step, which is the chocolate ganache that will fill the insides of these cupcakes. To make your ganache filling, you're going to take 4 ounces or 1 bar of chopped bittersweet chocolate, which you should have chopped into small chunks, and put that in a bowl with a pinch of salt. Now you're going to take a small saucepan and add in 1/3 cup of heavy cream. Now you're going to heat it up on the stove over about medium heat until it starts to simmer, and I will be back when it does. Once it starts to simmer, you're going to pour that over your chocolate and just let it sit for about 30 seconds. Then you're going to take a fork and stir it until it all gets all smooth and combined and glossy. There are no lumps of chocolate. Now you're going to put this in the freezer, but you do not want to freeze it. So you're going to put it in the freezer, checking it every 5 minutes for about 15 to 20 minutes until it gets a little bit thicker but still runny. So I will be back after I'm done. Okay, so my ganache is done. I only put it in for 8 minutes, and I have this consistency here, which is a little bit thicker, but it's still liquidy. So if you wanted it to be even thicker, then you could keep it in for longer, or thinner, you could keep it in for less time. But this is about what I want, and it's going to solidify in the cupcakes themselves later, so it doesn't really matter. Anyways, now you're going to just stir this around, and you're going to take either a piping bag, or because this part doesn't have to be very pretty, just a plastic bag, and you're going to scoop this chocolate ganache into there. Now you're just going to cut a hole in one of the corners, and now you're going to just distribute this among your different cupcakes in the center that you took a hole out of. Once you're done filling your cupcakes, you can just let this sit while you work on the frosting. To make the frosting, you're going to take 2 egg whites and put them in a heat-proof bowl. And I'm just using my mixer bowl because I'm going to need to use this on the mixer, but if your mixer bowl is in metal, then you can use a different bowl and put it in later. Then you're going to add in 2/3 cup of granulated sugar and 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar. Now you're going to take your egg mixture and put it over a bowl filled with a little bit of water, and you're going to turn that on medium-high heat. Now you're going to constantly whisk this until it's a little bit warm but not very warm, which will take about 3 minutes. Once you're done with that, you're going to take this and put it on your mixer. And then you're going to start mixing this on low speed and gradually increase to high until you get stiff peaks, which will take about 4 to 7 minutes. Once you've reached the stiff peak stage, you can add 3/4 teaspoon of vanilla. Now it is time to add this to your cupcakes. So I'm going to use a piping bag, but you could also use a knife if you wanted to, or just a plastic bag. And now I'm just going to pipe a little design. I've found that this frosting doesn't really make enough to add way too much detail to it, but it's okay, it's still gonna taste good. Okay, so this time I actually had a little bit extra, so I could have used even more on some of these, but that's okay, they're still going to taste good. I might add some more after I finish filming. So now you can just take these out of their little holders. And now it is time to blowtorch them. So if you don't have a blowtorch, you can either skip this step since you don't really need to do it, or you can broil it for like a minute or two until it gets all toasted. But if you have a blowtorch, this is the best option. So that is what I'm going to do now. So you just want to go until it gets a little bit brown, or as brown as you like it. I'm not going to do all of these since I'm going to add some more frosting to some of the ones that didn't get enough, but I'll do the ones that look good. If you're using paper wrappers, be careful not to light the paper on fire. Okay, so now they are all done and you can eat one. So I'm going to select this one. So you can see all the layers, and this is super delicious. And it's probably one of my new favorite desserts just because it is so delicious. So you should definitely make them. Even though these have more steps, they're still pretty straightforward and not too hard. So these are really good and you should make them. And I will see you next time. Goodbye.